Hi, I'm Romi.
And I'm Nicole. Welcome to the Her Pursuit Pod, where we share our journey of building our business, The Daily Drip, a dynamic media platform that provides content and community for more than 4,000 South Florida female CEOs, founders, business owners, executives, and professionals.
Whether it's through our newsletter, events, or this podcast, our hope is to inspire your next big move and arm you with the tools you need to crush it. So tune in on your drive to work, wind down with us after a long day as we share our journey and the journeys of other remarkable business leaders on Her Pursuit.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Her Pursuit. My name's Nicole. I'm co-founder of The Daily Drip, and I'm here with my partner in crime, Miss Romi Wallach, and we are joined by our community partner, Daniel Wakefield, founder and renowned photographer at this point of TopTier Headshots. And for those of you who don't know, if you go on the Daily Drip website and you check out any of the photography of our Daily Drip thought leaders who are creating a lot of the content you're enjoying, Daniel is the creative behind those masterpieces. Your headshots really are like outstanding. They're rock star ready headshots. But it's interesting because you're so much more than a photographer these days. I'm very proud of you. You're going into 2025 now, adding author to the resume. So Daniel recently wrote a book that is actually launching very soon, and it's all about how he built his photography business. He went from 0 to 6 figures in 12 months. And Daniel has worked with Romi and I, and we've collaborated on so many projects, and we've become such great friends. And we had a really interesting conversation recently, and I said, I think that needs to be on the podcast. And so, Daniel, I'm going to pass it to you because I want you to really use this episode to step into your author and soon-to-be business coaching era. We have a lot of business owners that listen to us that follow the Daily Drip. And what's something that you want them to know about that you think is important to share from your journey?
Yeah, so I think, starting off, one of the things that I see with a lot of, especially I think solopreneurs, is people out there grinding, trying to make a name for themselves, build a brand, grow a profitable business, but so often doing it on their own and just trying to plug away, figure it out, build it on their own, and not realizing the amazing potential that's out there with strategic partnership and really coming alongside other brands that are doing similar things, reaching similar audiences, and using that as a way to really grow and extend their own brand while also benefiting those other brands at the same time. And so I think that, this conversation for me is all about if there are people listening who are solopreneurs or maybe small business owners that are struggling in this economy, in this crazy market that we're in right now, to struggling to grow their brand, to really penetrate a market, to achieve some sort of notoriety where people think this is the go-to person for in this industry. Then I hope that this conversation will really benefit them.
And I think you're talking about achieving, some pretty lofty goals, but even the struggle just to have some consistency, some predictable cash flow to kind of get the wheel in motion in this entrepreneurial endeavor, whatever it is. And I know, Rome, we laugh when we hear this topic because we get asked all the time how we built the Daily Drip and how did we do it and why did we do it and all of these things. And, in those very, very early days, I think our single signature strategy, like the whole plan, was just to find our people. Who can we collaborate with and on what and why and how can we work together? We really adopted that mentality. And you said something interesting, Daniel, when we were having this conversation, and I love the way you positioned it. You said business is a team sport. Can you talk a little bit about where you got that concept from? Because I think that's a really interesting way to look at it, because you're talking about it in the context of a solopreneur.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or very small business owner, things like that. I would just want to preface by saying this is not an original concept to me, and I see it popping up, now and then, but I think where it really hit home for me was two of my two oldest boys, who are 8 and 10, are playing sports together. Right now they're on the same basketball team, which is really fun to watch. They were struggling a bit at the beginning of the season because everybody on the team was playing like an individual. Like they were, their own team, and they were just in it for themselves. It's how many points can I put on the board?
Right.
Period.
Yep.
And I was seeing that and just wanted to have a talk with them, not in a, I never want to be that sports parent. That's just like, you need to do this. But at the same time, learning to play as a team is an important life skill. So let's have a conversation.
Being a part of a team is a life skill.
Yeah, exactly. So let's have a conversation about, what's the goal of a team sport. You can score the most number of points of anybody on the team and still lose.
Right.
So what's the goal there? And so really just trying to instill in them as a dad, and just wanting them to learn some of these life skills. How do you play as a team, which involves selflessness and being realizing that, I'm not always in the best position to take the shot, or maybe there's somebody who can take a shot who's better than I am at that shot, and so but maybe I'm really good at passing, so I can pass them the ball for them to make the shot. And in the course of having that conversation, I was just like, man, this is a great business concept. And again, like hearing it from other places too, but just really forcing me to think about the importance of it, and then how important it's been in my business for growing my own brand. And, I had the blessing of having some mentors early on in my business that really helped me get going, but it was still kind of a solo venture, we'll say. It was still like, grind and push forward, and you can do this on your own type of thing. And so it was kind of getting out and networking and growing and seeing what other people were doing, and then getting connected to people like the two of you, and just realizing the power of not trying to do it on your own, but literally finding your team.
So it's interesting when I think about a lot of this. When I started in financial services, I didn't think about it so much from the team perspective, which I love, by the way, and I'm obsessed with sports. But for me, I looked at it from the point of view of, there were two sides to it. One was the person I'm serving. How can I give them as much value as possible? It's not just going to come from the one service I provide. So if I'm talking to people about their financial issues, part of that conversation, if I'm doing my job well, is they need an estate planning attorney. They should have a CPA. They're a small business owner. They need someone who's in marketing. And so I was looking to build a team, an arsenal of people, so that I could just be that one resource for the person that I could provide all this additional value. And then the team part came in with me trying to align myself with people that were at a similar stage or close to it in their business, because we were moving at the same pace and with the same ambitions. And I will add, the final piece was also finding people that aligned from a value standpoint. I wanted to be working alongside people that were going to look at this person and have the same approach to how they wanted them to feel. And I remember you and I meeting on LinkedIn, setting up my appointment, leaving, and calling Nicole from the car. I was like, oh, I don't know how, but we're going to be partners with him. Like, I was everything lined up. The quality of your work was excellent. I'd never seen a picture of myself that I loved as much as that one, really, truly. But beyond that, all I could think is, oh my God, like, think about what he could do for all of the people in our audience, in our sphere, all of those kinds of things. And it was just like, this is someone I want to be aligned with. Mm-hmm. Our clients benefit from the fact that we all come together. Yeah. They get better.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, who's on your team, Daniel? Like, you're year 2 now? 3?
In terms of years in business?
Yeah.
It'll be actually 4 in January.
Okay, so
yeah.
you're okay, so you're celebrating 4 years, and yeah, so we're about the same age, business years. It's like dog years.
Yeah, it feels like it.
It feels like it. No, but like, what does the team look like for a photography business for you? Like, who's on your team and why?
Well, I mean, it's almost like there's concentric circles, I would say. And it's not, in a sense, it's not like an official team, right? Like I don't have people on payroll or things like that. But just in terms of, who I look to and who I collaborate with, I mean, obviously you guys, I mean, are like in that inner circle, I would say, because, and I think this is important, it's not just people that you are going to send referrals back and forth to, it's people that you actually plan stuff with.
Yeah.
Right? It's people that you get together for a conversation and you leave that conversation with a bigger vision for your business than you had before. Every time I have a conversation with the two of you, I'm like, wow, like I'm going national, like this is insane, like what's going to happen next year? And so I think those are the people who become your inner circle. I think you talked about the values being aligned, that it's not like we don't approach our relationship as like, tit for tat, like if you send this referral, I've got to send this referral. Like we're just always looking out for each other.
Yeah.
And
I think that's such a good point that you just mentioned for anyone listening, because I think you just pointed out a very big difference between a referral partner and a strategic alliance.
Yeah.
Because when you have referral partners, there's like this synergy. It makes sense. We have a media platform. We need photography. You're a photographer. But our relationship has really evolved well beyond that. We are actually co-creating. We've entered a world where we're such strategic allies of each other, and we have such synergy, and now we've developed such trust, and we have such genuine connection and friendship and mutual respect for each other that we're actually sitting down at the table and saying, I wonder if we created this, how people would respond. What if we created a whole new service, a whole new package, a whole new experience, a whole new initiative, and you could bring your tools and skills to the table and we can bring our tools and skills to the table, and what happens if we come together and create something completely new? And that's what I think I've learned as our relationship has grown, is that there's this very small group of people in our sphere that I think that happens so organically, where we're creating together. I would put Malia and VoiceBox Podcast and Creator Studio, which is where we are right now recording. Malia and I have these very powerful conversations where it's like, what if we did this? What if we positioned it this way? What if we put this together? No one's doing this. And it's this idea that we're so much more than the sum of our parts. Like we come together and it's like a 2 + 2 is 5 scenario where there's just this X factor because we've come together versus creating everything singularly.
Our ideas start to amplify, or we start to amplify each other's ideas and make the ideas better. And those just go back and forth until you get into like this hype tornado stuff, which we can talk about later maybe. But I almost like to think about it as your strategic alliances are going to be the people where every conversation could be a podcast.
Right.
It's true.
Right? It's the people that you have those conversations and there's so many great ideas and so much lifting each other up and so much value there that if someone else was listening in, they'd be taking notes.
Yeah. And you're creating something completely new. You're not talking about my world, your world. You're talking about our world.
Yeah.
And that changes everything.
And I think part of it is that, again, it comes down to the people we're serving, right? Like that's what's on the mind. It's like, this is the person I'm serving. How can I deliver something better? How can I give more? What do they need? Because our people are the same, right? We're talking the same audience. So us coming together and co-creating how we can serve them better, I think also brings tremendous value. They're always the first thing we're thinking about when we're putting these things together.
Yeah.
This is what they need, and how do I make them look better?
Yeah.
How do I make speakers? And you came up with this whole idea. You identified a problem, and we're sitting here like, okay, this is something that needs to be solved to better serve and help these people advance their careers, advance their businesses.
Yeah, that's so important, because so many people start a business because they think, well, I'm really good at this thing and it's something that people will pay for, so let me start a business around this thing and then do that. But they're not really thinking strategically about what problems am I solving for people, or how can I innovate in a way that differentiates me from other people in the industry, and how can I innovate in a way that's solving new problems that are obvious people are struggling with and nobody's solving that problem. Those are all the things that as a business owner you need to be thinking about to take you beyond just the being a technician.
Right.
You know, if you start a business as an attorney to provide legal services for people, in a sense, you're a technician. You're providing that service for someone, but you're now, because you started your own firm, you're more than just a technician, you're a business owner. So you've got to start thinking like a business owner. And part of that goes beyond just the, you know, I'm going to provide this service to people, to how do I solve people's problems, and then how do I align with other people to solve those problems better.
Yeah.
That, I think, is the mic drop moment, what you just said. And it's interesting because I recently was reading an article that was talking about how 21st century skills and 21st century entrepreneurship has such an emphasis on the ability to solve problems, identify problems, and solve them quickly, because the problems are changing. Mm-hmm. The landscape is changing at such a fast pace that the entrepreneurs, the solopreneurs, the business owners who are winning are the ones who are dedicating real time to surveying, really going deep on what are the problems of this moment. What will the problems be next year? What is the problem of this coming decade? And because it won't be for the next decade, and really being on the forefront of problem solving. And I just think what fosters that kind of muscle building is having the right allies and the right strategic partners and the right alliances where you can together sit down to brainstorm, how are the problems changing now? How are they appearing differently? How are they impacting the person differently? And then we can sit together and co-create new solutions that don't even exist yet, or, you know, evolve solutions to adapt and fit more urgently, and really kind of like capture the attention and capture the business of the audience, because you are so directly hitting them, piercing them in the heart. And I think that, you know, to what you said is so perfectly like articulated. It really is about problem solving, and I think you problem solve better when you problem solve in community, mm-hmm. or together, or in allyship.
And I think the clearer you get on the person you're serving, the problems that they're dealing with become a lot more apparent and a lot easier to start to kind of co-create what that solution looks like. Like I think about how we defined, you know, who we were serving when we first started the Daily Drip, and how that has become a consistent evolution, meaning like we got kind of more and more refined in terms of exactly who she is, so that we could really provide the solutions to her problems, not all women who work. Right? It was a particular kind of person. It's a particular kind of business owner that is doing certain types of activities that require your services. Right. You know, and you identified that problem. So I think that's also like really important as a business owner, a solopreneur, is like when you get really clear on the real person you're serving, figuring out like you can clearly see what their problems are, and then start to plug in, you know, the solutions.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, we've talked about the importance of identifying your audience, really understanding your audience, finding people who share that same audience, maybe complement the work that you do, who you can come together with and maybe serve better, serve bigger. But I feel like there's like another X factor that we all share, and I think we would be remiss if we didn't bring this up on this episode. And I think it is the fact that we are all very much aligned in this value of being of service. Mm-hmm. We really approach that audience, that client base, in a way where we are of service to them. We have chosen to dedicate this initiative, our profession, our careers to serving these problems for them. And I think that that's a very special gift that we all share and that we've found each other, because there's a lot of photographers out there. Like, really,
Yeah.
there's a lot of photographers that we could be working with, and certainly they all outreach us. But there's something so special about the fact that you, Daniel, are so of service to the people that you work with and really come from that frame of mind. And how can I help you? How can you work with me and I help you get a little bit closer to where it is you're going? And then when we come together and we co-create with that kind of perspective that we are of service, I just think it makes everything that much better. Like, the output is that much 10x.
Mm-hmm.
We all
Yeah.
want to see each other win. Like, the enthusiasm I feel like we share for each other when we come up with an idea and, hey, I've been thinking, and like, I met someone, like, there's a genuine relationship that exists here where we are so invested in each other's success. Like, really, service and really seeing the other person like really rise. Like, we're in this together.
Well, that's recently in a conversation with the two of us, you said something to me about, you're going to be speaking on a national stage or something like that. And I was like, you two are coming with me. Like, what's like, you're going to be on the stage too.
Oh, God.
If I have anything to say about it. Well, you're going to be in the front row, I know, because you don't want to be on the stage.
I like it.
but,
I'm happy being the cheerleader.
Yeah, but I couldn't agree more. I think that there's so many interlocking elements of that, of the experience changes for the client when that's your mentality, that your networking changes, the way that you form these strategic alliances changes, who you're even looking for in a strategic partner changes, and I think that's actually something that as I've kind of been dipping my toes into with my book and with coaching other photographers and other creatives, kind of dipping my toes into this coaching world, and how do I help other businesses achieve this same success. Part of my thought process has been, I saw this hype building around my business, and it really made me step back and say, well, why is this there? What caused this? How could it be replicated with somebody else? And Nicole was instrumental in a conversation that we had in just helping my thinking around this. But it really led me to develop this concept of hype tornado. And as a business owner, you need to do everything you can to start this hype tornado, which will take off and cause your business to take off. And really, I've narrowed it down to, I think, and it's a simplification, but I think narrowed it down to 3 major, we'll say, environmental conditions that are needed to start that hype tornado. It starts with a killer product or service where you cannot be mediocre. You cannot show up to the table with something that looks like everybody else's and there's no difference there. It's a killer product or service, and it's also a product or service that solves a problem. So it's not just like a commodity. It's not somebody checking a box, I got the headshot. It's something that, people have this real need, and not only do you solve the need, but you blow them out of the water with the product or service. I know both of you do that with the Daily Drip. I see that all over social media. It's something that I've endeavored to do, but that's condition number 1. Condition number 2 is over-the-top client experience.
Yeah.
Where people that come and work with you feel like they are heard, you've listened, you've understood, you've communicated, they feel like they're heard. They are taken care of above and beyond what they expect, and they feel empowered working with you. So the client experience is just so much more than they've ever experienced in that industry before. And then the third condition is, I've called this a social presence that adds value. So it could be in-person networking. It could be your LinkedIn presence. but some sort of social presence that seeks to, beyond just the service you provide, seeks to really add value to the people in your network, even if they never work with you.
Right.
Even if somebody's like, Daniel's not a good fit for my headshots because I want a headshot on the beach or just something that's different than what I normally do. They want a different vibe. That's fine. But I still want them, if they're connected with me, to receive value from our connection, our relationship, from following my LinkedIn content, things like that. And so when all of those things are in place, it starts this feedback loop of leading to more clients who then experience the client experience, who then get even more value from your social presence, and that leads to more people, and it starts to spin out of control. Now, what happens if you take several hype tornadoes and put them together? Like
Tsunami.
it just like blows things out of
tsunami.
proportion, and then the hype that's getting built. So that's something that I think that business owners need to wrap their minds around, is not just like the question, how do I get more clients, is almost not deep enough.
Right.
You've got to go deeper to, why would somebody want to work with me when there's 100 other people in my industry, in my area, that they could choose? And I think boiling it down to this hype tornado, people start to get FOMO from not working. Like, I'm not part of the Daily Drip yet. Like, I haven't gotten a TopTier headshot yet. Like, I got to do this. And I think you've experienced that. And I've definitely experienced that, of people reaching out like, it's time. Like, I've waited long enough, and so many other people have worked with you. And I know, like, based on your waiting list, that you're experiencing the same thing.
Well, I want to call out a couple things that you just talked about for everyone listening into the audience, because what you just described, I'm a big proponent of. You know it. You've heard me on stage talk about those factors. But it's this idea of understanding, like, do you know what feeling you're in the business of selling, right? And you talked about that, making them feel, creating an experience that makes them feel. So it's this idea of knowing what you should be making them feel, what feeling you should be evoking through your experience. And some people don't even know. Some people are in business and they don't even realize that A, they should be evoking feelings from customers and clients, and B, which one? Is it safety? Is it empowerment? Is it freedom? Is it accomplishment? What is it that you're selling? Because you're not selling the service, you're selling the feeling. And the experience is the vehicle you create and manufacture that feeling through. And then what you talked about in your third leg of the stool is the power of referrals, the power of social proof, people talking about their experience with you, people talking about this feeling you gave them, people talking about it on social media, talking about it in conversation, and then bringing all of that new business and new brand awareness to you. It's about turning your clients into raving fans, which is a common terminology, but it's about more than that. It's about turning them into marketing engines for you, which leads to what you're talking about, this hype tornado. And I think, being in service of others almost lends itself to you being able to really be in tune with the feeling that you're selling.
Yeah.
Because you are so deeply in service of these people, and you are so deeply entrenched in what's going on in their mind, and what is it that they want most, and what are they motivated by, and what problem are you solving, and what feeling does solving that problem elicit, right? And so you're so deep in the weeds with your own audience, with your own clients, that you're able to engineer an experience that ensures that they're going to have that feeling, have that solution, have that result. And no wonder they want to scream your names from the rooftops. And it's incredible.
I was gonna say, like, when you deliver something like that, when you make somebody feel that good about it, they can't help themselves. Like, you don't have to ask them for a Google review. They are going to run and tell everybody they know, because what they just went through, they're like, everybody I know has to experience this. Like, that's how I felt when I left your studio. Thank God, we get a lot of that because of the experience our members and our thought leaders have had, that now we meet people and they're like, I don't even know, whatever it is, I want a part of it. Like, I just want to be around it. And it's a feeling that we even have a hard time articulating what that feeling is necessarily. But it also then brings in the most fulfilling and rewarding clients and people and members, because now they're coming by way of a really strong advocate for your brand, for your product, for your service, and for whatever it is you're doing. Like every member that comes into our community through another member or a thought leader is already in, right? Like they're already warm and ready for it because they trust the people that are already in there. And I think that's a big piece of it.
And it's statistically true. Referrals close like 7 times faster and 7 times cheaper.
Yep.
So really, when you're thinking about growth this year for your business, in general, the magic trick to growth is to not losing the clients that you were so fortunate to achieve, and optimizing and mobilizing those clients to go and spread the gospel on your behalf and build on that client base. There's so many times that we see business owners and they're really just replacing business. They're not building business. There's a very big difference there.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the magic of that lies in exactly what you talked about.
Yeah. Adam Grant has a quote that I love.
Romi is his number one fan.
Such a fan.
Adam, if you're listening, Romi is your number one fan.
I am a raving fan.
So you're gonna I quote Adam Grant in my book, and so he has this quote that I've really latched onto about the difference between transactional relationships and meaningful relationships. And the way that he frames his quote is basically like, I think he's talking about, who you build relationships with, and you want to build relationships with people that are interested and meaningful, and not just like they're just going to call you when they need something from you type of thing. But as a business owner, I wanted to flip that around and think about me and what sort of relationships I'm building as a business owner. So for me, it was, am I just interested in dollars? Am I just interested in like somebody coming and paying me for my service and then our relationship's over? Because I think that's what a lot of business owners do is we need cash flow. You need clients to come in so that the business can survive and grow and all of those things. But there's a missed opportunity there, I think, on both a personal and a professional level to build something deeper and more meaningful. And it's like, am I just building something where I get a client, great, they pay me, and then I'm on to the next one, and the relationship's basically done until they need me again? Or is it something more than that, where I could reach out to somebody just because I want to see how they're doing, not because I need their business again?
Or because you just had a great client experience that made you think of them.
Right.
And you know that they have to meet. I've gotten that text so many times from you. I just had the most interesting client, and I think she'd be perfect for the Daily Drip. In fact, I think your personal brand has now become known for you being almost like using your business to be a master connector. And in that way, I think you provide so much more value to everyone you work with beyond just the great images that you produce. You actually have become like a community resource, a connector for them.
It's been a journey. When I started, I had 2 connections on LinkedIn, and I had zero idea what networking was. Like I'd been a teacher and was in that world, but business networking, like what's that? Like I knew it was a thing, but how do you just go and like hand out business cards? Like what is and I did have a friend who was well-meaning, and I got some other good advice from him, but he kind of came from more of like cold calling, like New York finance stuff like that, and was like, you should go to these networking events and just like sell people on the spot and like close them on the spot. And he's like, it's not rocket science, it's a photo session. And I was like, it just didn't feel like me. It didn't feel right. And I was a little discouraged at first because I was like, nobody's buying anything on the spot. But I wasn't even really trying either. But then I got connected with people and was watching them and how successful they were. And also they weren't selling people. They were
Making friends.
They were making friends. They were adding value. They were connecting other people. They were connecting me with people. And I hadn't even done anything for them yet. And I really couldn't do anything from them because my network was like 10 people at that point. And it was just like, okay, like that's different, but that makes sense. And that feels right. That felt right to me. So it was just kind of like how, as my network grows, how can I do that more? And I think it's so important that it comes from a place of genuinely wanting to see people win. When you connect with good people, when I have people come to my studio for a session, and maybe it's our first time like really, getting to know each other. We've had a phone call, but now we're in the studio, and it's a little bit like being a barber and everybody opens up and just tells you everything, and so we just have all these great conversations, and you kind of know if somebody's like, this is a great person that I want to see win. And who can I connect them with? How can I help them win? And I think when you bring that adding value mindset to your journey as a business owner, it really changes things.
So it's interesting. So two things come to mind. One is I like to quote the great Rich Rogers, who says, great people introduce you to great people. And it couldn't be more true. I've noticed that. But you and I had a similar journey, because when I started in financial services, they give you no support. They're just like, you got to go out and either cold call or network. And I didn't really understand what that meant. I would just go to things and I would kind of walk around, and then I would make some friends, and it built over time. But even as I started to work in the industry, I was getting some slack from people I worked with that my process was too long, because I was spending so much time getting to know these people. And so my closing cycle was longer than what it should be. I couldn't operate in another way. To me, what we were talking about were very personal things. I wasn't comfortable pushing people to do things before they were ready. I was very big on how do I educate and bring more resources. And so I made the decision that, like, if it takes me 3 or 4 or 5 extra calls or a couple of extra months, but I know that I'm giving them everything that I can. I'm making them feel what they need to feel, the feeling. I felt good about that. I couldn't operate in another way. And the same with all these relationships. Like, I never went in and met anyone where I was evaluating the room, trying to figure out who should I approach because this is someone that can serve me. It was like I go in, as far as I was concerned, it was all blank slate. And whoever I spoke to, and I never kind of discounted anybody. And I think a lot of people make that mistake. They're so focused on, like, how can I get rather than how can I give? Mm-hmm. And you do not operate like that. I don't operate like that. And it automatically brings much better, more substantial, real, meaningful relationships into your, which is why people want to do things for you now. They want to do things. They are so...
They want to reciprocate. We're hardwired to reciprocate. And when somebody goes out on a limb and gives to you without having to ask and offer support, you always remember that, because it's so rare. Nobody's really doing it. And it prompts you to want to reciprocate and return the favor and help that person.
Yeah. And I guess it's so interesting, because I get asked a lot, like, when it comes to networking and how'd you do all these things? And I'm like, it's so simple. And I don't want to say what I always say, but, like, it's so simple. Like, if you just operate from a place of being a good person, like, it's literally that simple. Just don't be a dick, right? Like,
we're going to get shirts made.
But I say that in such a sincere way, in the sense that, like, by just being who you are as a good person, going out and being open to receiving new people and meeting new people and learning about new people, that is how you have created the network that you have. These are people that are now a part of your sphere because you just went in and was like, I just want to meet people. I want to connect with people that have things in common with me. I want to get to know as many people as I can, and wherever it leads you, rather than with like a whole agenda. When you go in with an agenda, people can, I remember one of the financial advisors I worked with, he's like, it's like commission breath.
Yeah.
They can smell it on you, you know, the way
Right.
you talk, the way you operate. Whereas like when you go in and just start talking like a normal person, people's guards come down and all of a sudden the rapport builds and you've earned their trust. They don't even realize it happened. And you have a hell of a lot easier runway when that's been established.
Yeah.
So I have a closing question for you.
Okay.
Because we've given this audience so many good nuggets to kickstart 2025 for them. Aside from don't be a dick, what
It's
would
solid
you
advice. Don't you? I mean, it's solid.
what would you say to the business owners in the audience, these newer business owners? Maybe this is the year they're starting, maybe they're in year 1 or year 2 and they're pushing forward. What would you leave them with as a little golden nugget for 2025?
If you want to make more money, solve bigger problems.
Ooh,
Wowza.
good one.
That's not original to me. I believe it was Jim Rohn that said that one. Also quoted in my book. But
I like it.
I mean, it's true. I mean, if you so my industry, if you view headshots as just it's just like for a name badge or just quick throw it on the company website or email signature or something like that. Yeah, I mean, it's limited value there. But if you start to view it as marketing collateral and what it could be and the doors that it could open and start to solve bigger problems with it, the value of it increases 10x. So don't just think about, let's use an accountant as an example. Don't just think about it as, I'm just going to do a tax return
Right.
and then I call it a day. What kind of problems can you solve for your clients that will greatly increase the value of what you offer and bring them the feelings that they need? My previous CPA was a January, send us your receipts and we'll do it, and then didn't hear from the rest of the year. And it worked until it didn't.
Sure.
And then business got more complex and it was like, we need something more. So all that to say, don't just think, I just do what 100 other people do. Think about your uniqueness and what unique problems you can solve. And then that becomes part of your personal brand. As you build out a presence on platforms like LinkedIn, you can speak to that and show people the problems that you can solve for
that
them.
poor CPA, what a missed opportunity that was for them.
Oh, yeah. So
So-
you're going straight to the top.
Yeah. So, and then I think just in terms of one of the things I've been teaching is when you go to networking events, your primary objectives should not be to look for new clients.
No.
Your primary objective should be to build relationships and to look for strategic partners.
I like it.
And then the
I'm with you.
clients will just come because you'll get to know people, you're adding value, and people are like, oh yeah, that's, of course we'd go to Dana. Of course we'd come to Nicole and Romi because you become the known entity and top of mind with people in this industry. Or if you're creating a new industry like you guys are.
I love this.
I
I
think it's
love that
perfectly
advice,
said.
Daniel. And I think that that's a perfect advice for going into a new year. Probably people are joining new communities, new associations, new networks. Or they might be deciding that they're going to hold on to a couple, but they're going to approach it in a fresh way. And I think that you left them with such 2 really good pieces of advice, because if you're going into your networking as with a relationship building mindset and you're looking for strategic partnerships, you're probably going to have a hell of an easier time solving bigger problems with all of those allies that you go and find. So thank you so much
You're
for
welcome. Thanks
being
for having
on the
me.
show. We love having you. We love anytime we get to go into Daniel's studio to come into ours. We could just sit here and talk for hours, but I promise you guys we'll have him back on. But in the meantime, Daniel, thank you so much for being here, sharing all your tidbits on your business journey. And for all of you, check Daniel out on LinkedIn, follow his story, learn about his clients, and we will hopefully see you here again soon, Daniel. And thank you, everybody, for listening to us. And we'll see you on another episode of Her Pursuit. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Her Pursuit.
You can listen to new episodes every other Wednesday on Spotify or watch us on YouTube. Stay in the loop on all our virtual and in-person events, read our latest articles, and catch new episodes by subscribing to our free weekly newsletter.
Check out the episode notes for more details, and we'll see you here on our next episode of Her Pursuit.